Good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Vow to Be Fierce podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Cordero. Thank you for popping in. I am coming to you again from my morning walk. And I had a thought and I was like, let me bring it to my community. Happy Friday, by the way. It's Venus Day. All the vibes. I got my lipstick going. I swear there's just so much magic in lipstick. It's so good. So, okay. So it's about relationships. Shocker. No, we just ended Libra season. So, Libra energy. If you know anything about Libras are like the sign of partnerships. This could be romantic, this could be friends, companions, business partners, like all types of relationships. And so the Aries, oh, I see a butterfly. Hi, butterfly. She's like waving at me. Butterflies are having a moment in my life currently, and I'm loving it because they signify transformation and new beginnings and becoming. Okay, that's all I'll say for now. But and so we just had a Libra new moon this past week. And so for some of you, for all of you, you might have seen some shifts in your relationship dynamics. So the new moon brought in like some clarity on where you stand with your relationships, what dynamics need to be shifted, what's working, what's not working, because Libra is all about balance. It's all about restoring harmony with things. And sometimes that requires, I had this beautiful conversation with one of my fellow Libras recently, and how Libras have this stereotype of people pleasers and also being indecisive. But what it really is, that is so basic and that is so surface level, right? What it really is that think of the scales. Think of the scales. And sometimes, right, when things are off balance, sometimes we need to put a little bit more on the other end to weigh out to even things out, right? And so it just calls for different parts of ourselves to rise up to see, like, okay, what needs balance here, or what is the imbalance, and where did it come from? Because now we are in Scorpio season. And Scorpio, if I had one word for the energy of Scorpio, I would say depth. Because whether you like it or not, we going deep, okay? So there's nothing surface about Scorpio. There are so many layers. And that's why Phoenix Rising energy is definitely perfect for this season. Because it's about digging deep and like finding things, uncovering things that maybe you haven't explored before. And all of it is working for your growth, right? Back to the butterfly. Everything that happens, everything that you experience, there is an opportunity for you to grow. No, life is not lifing just to like kick you to the ground, okay? And I share that as somebody who truly, truly struggled. And I want to say that the reason why I'm being so open is because I think that's what's needed for us to like heal. And everybody has a different journey. But I feel like we don't talk about the hard things enough. And when we brush things aside and pretend that everything is great, when it's really not, what are we doing? What kind of life is that? We're not doing that, right? So that's why I've committed to digging deep digging deep and like, doing the things. That way, when I do that, when I have done that, the results are always expanding my capacity for things. That way I do have more time for joy. I do have like more capacity to be silly because I'm not so in the depths of the thing that I'm trying to navigate. So, okay. All that to say, I wanted to come in and talk about relationships, right? Because I had a question. I have a question for you, because these are things that, like, I don't come on here like, hey, here are, tips A, B, and C. Sometimes I will, because I'm all about like sharing my journey, sharing experiences that I've learned either in my own life, in clients' lives, in family and friends, and just in the collective and what I see and what I, so, when I do share, I feel confident in sharing because it's coming from a place that I know that can be valuable to someone else, right? So, I was on Instagram yesterday and I was scrolling and I stopped, I forgot what it's called, and I'm sure you may know this or you may have seen it, but that show about like couples in therapy. I forgot what it's called because I know there are a couple of them that I've seen. But anyway, so shocker, I was so like, there were only short clips of each episode and I was so interested. And so I clicked in, and let me tell you, before I knew it, of course, going down the rabbit hole, I started listening to all of the mini clips because all of the relationship issues were so interesting. And when you can listen in and from an outside perspective, then you can see things clearly. Like, you can see things in a different light. And that's why I was thinking, I was like, oh, okay, that's why I could see why people may go to therapy, like a couples therapy or family therapy or whatever it is, because having that outside perspective or having that outside energy that is neutral, knows what they're doing, knowing how to navigate, I see it as like a guide, can really like, and if they're really good, like this woman, you can like really hold the space, because relationships have so many powerful dynamics. And I really do believe that the relationships we have with others is, number one, a reflection of ourselves. And also, like, there's a lot of purpose and opportunity to learn more about ourselves so that we can be better humans for the collective. That's what I truly believe is the purpose of relationships. To expose things within ourselves. That's why there's so many issues with people in relationships, because we attract, sometimes when we're not in the best place, or when we're working through things, or when we're going through something, we attract people that are on our vibe, right? On our frequency. And we will attract those people because, and this is why I say that everything is always working in your favor in the background. And this is why good things happen, bad things happen, and like all the things in between, because that is life. That's part of the human experience. And so I know heartache and like relationships can feel like so much, but there truly is a bigger picture. There is meaning, and we do need each other. We do. We've been taught that we should only look out for ourselves. Actually, I'm going to take a pause there, and I'm going to share this story about this morning with Zoe, because we're talking about caring for ourselves. This morning was a teaching moment for me, and it was a teaching moment for my daughter. And she's 6, if you don't know. So, I don't know how we get on the topic of, oh, I know. So we were talking about sharing in school. So I know my kid, and she's so kind. I don't say that because she's my daughter. Like, she's very thoughtful, and she is a nurturer by nature. And so what's been happening is I always get her snacks, or her dad buys her snacks. And I noticed when she was coming home, she would be like, oh, she wouldn't even tell me. It's because I've investigated. As a mama, that's what we do. So I was like, oh, how was your snack? And, we were just talking about her day. And she goes, oh, I didn't really have any because, this person didn't have a snack. So I just gave it to them. And I was like, oh, okay. And interesting. And so my conversations with her have been about sharing and how that's beautiful. And I'm so glad that she's kind, because we should always be kind. And we have to take care of ourselves first. That is first and foremost, because if we don't, good morning, have a good day.
You too.
If we don't, this is what happens on my walk. You were saying, people, if you do not take care of yourself, how in the heck are you going to take care of anyone else? And it was a learning moment, because while we were talking about sharing this morning, and I was telling her that she needs to make sure to eat her snack first, and I give her an extra one because I know she likes to share. And I tell her, because last time what happened, I gave her 2 snacks because I know she likes to share, and what happened, she gave them both away. She goes, oh, well, this person wanted the cookies. And I'm like, and what about you? And I'm like, oh, no. Right? The mama bear in me is like, no. And this is part of parenting and teaching, because it was so interesting this morning when we were talking about this. She was like, oh, so I was telling her, you have to take care of yourself first, because then you can't take care of anyone else. And she was like, Mommy, isn't that selfish? And I was like, oh, hell no, in my mind. And I said, ding, ding, ding. And I said, oh, where did you learn that? She goes, I don't know. But you see, she couldn't pinpoint where, and it's probably everywhere. Probably, obviously, at home, where she sees me and, doing all the things for other people and blah, 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 right? I always say kids learn, they mimic what they see, right? But she didn't even know the meaning of selfish. And I was like, I decided to get curious instead of being reactive and be like, what? No, that's not selfish. I don't want you to learn that, because I'm in my own journey of learning this. I had to step back, and I had to get curious and investigate further. And we talked about what selfish is. And, I gave her the example of me. I was like, I'm your mommy, and I'm responsible for taking care of you and teaching you things. And I have to take care of myself first, because if mommy's not taken care of, then guess what, boo? You ain't taken care of, okay? Or things will be in shambles. And so I explained to her, I didn't say the shambles, but you know what I mean. So I explained to her that I gave her the example of me in my morning walks, right? So she sees now. I'm starting to model this behavior, and I'm learning to do that now. Because what was happening was, I know kids pick up on so much energy. They're sponges. We know this. They don't do as you say. They do as they see. So it's not their fault where they're learning stuff. Okay, so it's our jobs as parents to try to teach them in the best way possible. And I share this, and I know it's freaking hard as hell, because the world we live in. So, and because of there's so much exposure to so much, way much more than when I was growing up. And so we need to be mindful of that too, and also give ourselves grace, because guess what? The reality is, you can't always be there. And that's been tough for me, because I'm like, I'm like a mama bear, and I'm like, oh, I want to protect my baby. But I'm like, the best way to protect her is to teach her self-sufficiency, to also teach her values and things that are going to help her, like the self-care piece. I don't want her to grow up and start taking care of everyone else around her and forget about herself. I don't want her to experience what I have experienced myself. And so, I'm teaching her that taking care of herself is important and that it's not selfish, because already she's 6 years old. Already she had that thought in her mind, and she didn't even really know what selfish was, but she could connect the scenario, right? And so I told her, I was like, oh, you know how mommy needs her walks in the morning? She goes, yes. And if mommy doesn't get her walks in, then mommy's not taking care of herself. And then what? Then I get frustrated and like all this other stuff. She's like, yeah, you need your walks. And I said, it's the same thing. I'm doing that to take care of me. That way I can feel good and I can show up more for her, right? And so I told her the same thing for her, about she can have her snack and whatever. Anyway, I know, way too long. The other day I was talking to my mom and she's like, you take forever to say a story. And I was like, yeah, I do. I know this. But I'm also not going to stop this from allowing myself, like from expressing myself, because that is actually a pain point for me. That has been a wound that I've held for a long time, about staying quiet for so long. So then when I finally speak up and when I finally share what's on my heart, it comes out all crazy and jumbled because it's unfamiliar, or because, it's like, it's, what is it? I've learned to slow down, to process, and not feel the need to over-explain. And I'm sharing this process with you because this is my process. And I just want you to know that whatever your process is, however you learn, it's okay. It's okay. And not to allow anyone to deter you from continuing on your growth journey. Now, my mom said that as a joke. And I called her out. And if she's listening to this, she already knows. I was like, Ma, you just want to get off because you want to do this thing that you wanted to do. And so it wasn't so much about what I was sharing or how long I was taking, even though I know how I can get. It was more about her thinking about what she wants to do. And so again, with relationships, we have to learn each other and know, like, okay, because in that moment I was actually pissed off because I was trying to share something that was like an emotional, heartfelt thing. And I think it was taking me so long because I didn't even know, and I think I was processing myself. But I wanted to get it out and I wanted to share it with her. And she was not in that space. That's why I share this. And I'm like, we have to give each other grace and know people's capacities. I know my close relationships pretty well. And I've become familiar with learning that everyone's capacity is very different. My capacity is different. And we're allowed to change. We're allowed to expand. We're allowed to get closed off too and say, hey, I don't have the space to hear this right now. Okay? And that's a loving thing because it's not a rejection of, I don't love you. I'm not in the space, right? And that's learning all the lessons over here. But that's something that I learned a long time ago. And that's why it's important for us. Hello again. That's why it's important for us to nurture different relationships, because we have different relationships for different reasons, right? You may have the person you go to that's like your safe vault and say all the things and like process with them and all that stuff. Or you can have the other person that you just like have a grand time with and it's free and like, it's happy time and like all the things, and you just have fun together, and that's cool. It is for what it is. And, whatever it is. So, yeah. So, I'm laughing at myself because there's so many little nuggets that came out. And it was not even the one that I intended to share. And again, I share my process with you because I know that when I do share, it hits with somebody, even if it's one person. It helps me because I'm expressing myself, and it feels really, really good. It feels good to share. And it also helps somebody. It may not help you if you're listening and you're like, okay, I don't get it. That's okay. This is not for you. But if you're listening and you're like, I needed to hear that. Like, thank you. Or like, I didn't see it that way. Thank you. You're welcome. Because this is why I cherish different people, because everybody's different. And I'm always listening and I'm always learning. And, sometimes I'm laughing thinking of a person in my past that I had a relationship with. He would say that I'm stubborn, and I was like, I don't think so. But the truth is that, yes, I was stubborn in some ways, and I still am, because when I truly believe in something, I'm actually very chill and easygoing, right? But and for the most part, I go with the flow. And it's when I really, really feel strongly about something, that's when I'll take a stand. And best believe that I will take that stand, and I will not. I won't sit down. I won't. And so I think that's where he was coming from with that. Anyway. But for the most part, I'm very open, and I love to learn different perspectives. And that's why I'm like, because most of the time, a lot of conflict happens with people because we're not listening. We're not listening because relationships, again, they have the potential to trigger us. They have the potential to impact us, and impact us on a great note. Right? Like, think about, when you're in love. When you're in love, you're like floating, like la 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 la. Nothing can mess with your day, right? And when you're going through it with somebody, or when you're in conflict, or when you're, in disagreement with someone close to you, that shit takes you down, and it can bother you. And I say this to you, and I'm not saying that it manifests differently for other people. When I say it takes you down, some people literally shut down. Some people blow up, right? We all have different ways of expressing ourselves. And that's why in relationships, I think there is great potential to get to know ourselves better so that we can help each other in this world. We're not meant to be alone. We're not meant to do things alone. Even if you're an introvert, even if you love your alone time, which I do, I love it, and I need it to recharge. But I also love being with people and and also knowing that you have to know your capacity. You have to learn your limits. And I will end there. I love you so much. I hope you got something out of this. Share the episode with someone that you think it would help, or share it out on your stories. Take care and have a beautiful weekend.